So I've driven a ton of dedicated off-road SUVs this year, and Hyundai saw those, and they sent me out here with the brand new 2026 Hyundai Palisade XRT Pro, decked out with a few goodies. And this spot we're in here, an undisclosed location, is a place I'd normally take a dedicated body-on-frame SUV. But the Palisade, I'm hoping, will be able to tackle most of what those SUVs could do without sacrificing a lot of the on-road comfort. Do you really need 3 locking differentials? Do you really need those skid plates? Are you buying more than you need? Let's find out. All right, we'll find out how difficult that tent is to set up in a second. But for now, what is the Palisade? First off, if you know the Santa Fe, this is much larger. They are fairly similar in design. They're giant 3-row boxes, although this is 9 inches longer than that Santa Fe and about 3 inches wider. So that gives us a ton of additional space specifically for that 3rd row. And in size, this is basically as large as you can get as far as exterior dimensions go without stepping into those giant body-on-frame SUVs that I mentioned in the intro. And in some ways, they've kept the Palisade fairly simple. So under the hood is a naturally aspirated 3.5 liter transverse mounted V6. It's a crossover. It's a unibody kind of car type platform. So because of that, we get good soft suspension, which we'll talk more about at the end of the video. But in addition to that, a naturally aspirated engine just being simple in how it delivers its 287 horsepower, 286 pound-feet of torque, but also the all-wheel drive system. So being a front-wheel drive biased all-wheel drive system, when we're cruising, it'll just coast and get good fuel economy, 12.7 liters per 100 kilometers, or about 19 miles per gallon average, until it needs to send the torque to the rear, in which case it uses a clutch-type center differential to do that. It's very simple. It's all behind the scenes. Of course, the XRT Pro gives us a couple of additional drive modes, but out here on just even a forest service road, it should be plenty enough. And my first impressions here, it's incredibly comfortable. But like I mentioned, the XRT Pro does not get you any locking differentials. It doesn't even get you steel skid plates, which something like the Ford Explorer Tremor, a direct 3-row competitor to this, does get. The Palisade's just a lot more friendly. It's non-threatening. It's a little bit boring. In fact, not even a little bit, 90% of the time, the Palisade, you just kind of forget about it. Whereas the Explorer Tremor, the suspension's a little bit stiffer. If you want to huck it into a corner, it's going to feel a lot more planted. One of the first things I noticed here is the lack of wind noise actually from the rooftop tent and that bike rack combo. Now it is a little bit noisy right now just because I have the sunroof visor open right now, but when that's closed, it's incredibly quiet. And combine that with the lack of road noise from these all-terrain tires, pretty smooth, pretty comfortable. Okay, Palisade XRT Pro. Every crossover needs an off-road trim in 2026. And the Palisade is no exception. You guys have probably already seen this got redesigned for 2026. It's an all-new generation. It's a lot larger than the previous generation. And of course, the Santa Fe below it is still a lot smaller, but the XRT Pro, that's what we're here for. So it's pretty standard across the board with all of these crossovers. You get a 1-inch lift here. You get these 18-inch wheels instead of the other wheels, which are 20 or 21 inches. And then of course, all-terrain tires. From what I can tell, these Continental Cross Contacts are not like a crazy rock crawling type tire. They're mainly made for some light duty off-roading, but while still keeping the on-road noise down, which is the case. So that's good. And slightly improving ride quality. So there is that. Then you also get, you can't miss them. I'm colorblind, so I thought these were orange, but they're red. Red recovery hooks, 2 in the rear, 2 in the front. You get a lot of black accents to the XRT Pro comes standard with the roof rack here. The roof rails, those are in black. It's a great looking SUV. I like the rear end better than I like the front. The front looks good when the LEDs are on, the running lights, but when those are off, it's just a giant cheese grater. There's a bunch of boxes. It looks pretty good. I do overall, I like the design. It's boxy, but it still has some curves to it. I do wish though that back here, this matte black section along the, around the license plate was body color, I think. And then over here, XRT Pro badge. I mean, to you guys, what does professional mean, right? That's the question here. A real professional, yes, would have locking differentials, they'd have steel skid plates and all that. But hey, if you've got yourself and 6 other people in a Palisade out here, that's a family. That is a full-time job. You are a professional the moment you're managing all that, right? Especially out here with no cell service. And unfortunately, because there's a fire ban right now, no fire. So as you guys can see, here's the front end. Those are the recovery hooks. This doesn't really have any additional underbody protection. And some of those suspension components, especially in the rear, the lower control arms, are still in the same place they would be in a standard ride height Palisade. So you still gotta watch out for that, but the approach angle is better, it's improved. Same with the departure angle. And as far as the color goes, this is Titan green. Looks awesome. I mean, Hyundai, thank you for decking out this press car in the correct spec. It's got all the right colors, it's got all the right accessories, and this grille up here, just like the roof rack, is done in a darker black. I actually had no idea, I didn't even notice until now, this light bar right here, subtle. It's growing on me, it's definitely growing on me. I love the running lights. Just a couple of things I might change. Of course, every crossover that has an off-road trim has to have black plastic cladding around. To me, that's, you know, that's questionable, but I do get it. So the XRT Pro also gets an electronic limited slip differential back there. It doesn't lock. Of course, this does not have a 2-speed transfer case, but from a hardware perspective, that limited slip diff is the most important part of the XRT Pro package. And on top of that, you can set up screens on the inside when you're driving to monitor all your crucial off-road stuff if you have time to take your eyes off the road and pay attention to it, your pitch, your roll, your steering angle, and all of that stuff. And of course, the XRT Pro gets the 360 cam to make it all that much easier. And on top of that, as a final touch, the seats have this kind of mountain stitched in there as well. It's not overdone, it's not over the top, but it looks cool. On to the fun stuff, the accessories. So Hyundai pitched this to me as a do-it-all weekend vehicle. And because of that, they've decked it out with a Thule rooftop tent. So we'll figure out how that works in a second. And then on the other side, there is a Thule bike rack for one bike. So, you know, this isn't a giant rooftop area. And because the XRT Pro also comes standard with an integrated tow hitch that can tow up to 5,000 pounds, that's huge. You could stick a proper bike rack on here as well. You could have 3 bikes, or you could ditch that single bike rack up there and have a larger 4-person tent. We'll find out in a second if we need anything larger, but okay, so they've also kitted it out with these running boards. Now, the running boards, I love the idea here, but the Palisade just isn't large enough to justify these. So when you're getting in and out on a massive body-on-frame SUV, because you've got the height that you don't have here, there's not a whole lot of space here. And on top of that, you can see they're not that wide. See, on a massive body-on-frame 3-row, they would be sitting a little bit lower and then be inset so you could get your toes underneath, where here, it's just a flat section. So when you get out, it's really only your heel or your toes. Now, the one benefit here I could see is, yeah, when we're setting up the tent, we'll probably be standing on these running boards, and in that scenario, they will help. But for getting in and out, this is the one accessory that I personally would not spec, but hey, if you've got really short people in your family or kids, that was the other word I was looking for those people, then it might come in handy. But for me, I would skip this. Let's set it all up and see how it does.
There's a gray area between glamping in an RV park and cutting your own path to reach a camping spot you heard rumors about over your radio.
Yeah, I'll follow you as far as I can.
That's exactly where we are right now. That's exactly where the Palisade is most comfortable. Spend most of your time sitting around at the spot versus most of your time not knowing if you'll ever even make it to the spot. The tent went up quickly and easily, and although it's a bit small for 2 people, the lack of loose tent poles made me question the camping frustration of my entire childhood. The whole thing did end up feeling like a bit of a tree fort though, so that's cool. The 2 nights I was out here did feel like a spa compared to the real thing, and yes, that includes the morning cold plunge in the river and our fire that caught me off guard, not requiring any patience or skillful execution to bring to life. But what do I even mean by the real thing? Not knowing if you're going to make it back to civilization without getting stuck. That's the difference between a dedicated off-road option and a people mover like the Palisade. Yes, those larger Yukons and Expeditions move people incredibly well, but if you're not using 4-low or the locking differentials anyways, that's dead weight. You could very easily, if you're overconfident, push the Palisade out of its comfort zone and you may get stuck, but that's what those recovery hooks are for. There will always be someone more hardcore on the trail ready to pull you out. Just be ready to get roasted.
The Palisade pulls it off really well, I think. Overall, because this is at its core just a unibody Palisade, and most of you guys, let's be honest, are not going to take this off-road for any more than, I don't know, 2 or 3 weekends out of the year onto, like I mentioned before, just kind of a predictable scenario that you've been before and you just want just that extra little bit of confidence to know you're not going to get stuck in a place without cell service, let's say. You know, you can be self-sufficient in the XRT Pro, and I think that's the main thing. The best part is the core Palisade underpinnings here have not gone anywhere. It's super comfortable on road. It's incredibly quiet. This engine, when it's on or when it's off, you can't really tell the difference if you're outside the car. It idles so quietly. The only time you really hear noise is if you give it the beans, you downshift from the 8-speed auto with the 8-speed auto, and you get those revs up. I love the V6 here. It's simple. Throttle response is good. It's powerful enough. The 8-speed responds quickly, but the one thing I don't like is the throttle response is just a little bit lazy, and you find it doesn't downshift sometimes when you want it to. So the beginning of the pedal is just super slow, and then it kind of like creeps up, and then it's like, okay, we're going now, and then it kind of takes off, and then you have to really quickly ease off the throttle. So it's a small gripe, but every input is like that. Everything's light, everything is very effortless, and I think that's a positive. Overall, the Palisade XRT Pro just aims to make your life easy on and off road, and I think it does a great job, and these accessories just kind of add to that, you know? And what I would do personally, I would do a 4-person tent on top because you've got the real estate, and just maybe hitch a bike rack, a larger bike rack, onto the tow hitch if you're not towing anything. That's what I would personally do. And like I said, I would skip these running boards personally. Let me know what you guys think. Subscribe if you haven't already. We'll see you soon.